Good morning, guys. We are now in Malta. I'm very excited. You may be able to hear some music going to be playing. I'll show you in just a minute. They just stopped, but they've been playing quite a bit. I mean, since we've got here this morning, well over an hour. My excursion is not till like 1:15, somewhere around in there. I'm gonna see if I can get off the ship, go walk around. I'll show you some of outside. The biggest thing is to figure out how to get out of the port and get back in without a guide. Anyway, so let me show you outside right now. I'm very excited about Malta. That is the band that's playing over there. And these are the people getting off the ship going to their tours. And it has been raining a little bit, but I think it's supposed to clear up by this afternoon. I'm actually tempted to take one of those sightseeing buses. I don't know how much they cost or when it's leaving.
Nein.
I've only seen Diamonds International in the Caribbean. It's funny that it's here in Malta. Hey guys, I'm just doing like a midday break right now between what I did this morning and what I'm about to do in 40 minutes or so. So they announced over the PA system this morning that there was going to be another tour where you could buy a ticket, and it was like $14 and change, and you could get on a bus and they would drive you to, I'm looking, Mdina, M-D-I-N-A, and then it would come back to Valletta. I think I'm maybe mispronouncing it, but here are, let's see if that will focus. So Mdina and then there, and this was like the bus schedule. So they drove us to Mdina first, and it was about a 30 or so minute drive, but I will tell you, they did not stick to their schedule. They said the bus was leaving at 9 a.m. and we didn't leave till like 9:15-ish, somewhere around in there. And somebody on the tour bus said they looked it up or something and said the city was established or built in the 8th century BC, and I think I already said that on here. And then we could choose when to come back, so I only had like 40 minutes or so there because I've got to get to my other excursion at 1:15. So because we were late pulling in, it took about 30 minutes to drive there. We got there maybe at 9:50, and then I needed to be back on the 10:30 bus. And so I was able to make it. They weren't on time again for 10:30. Then they drove us back, kind of like if you looked out this window and go left. And it was way up there. And so I just took a long walk. It was beautiful. I'm absolutely loving Malta. And I went into a store or two. I got a couple things. And one of the things I had, well, nothing in Malta I had any intention of buying, I will admit that. They apparently are known for their glass, and the glass has really reminded me a lot of the Venetian glass or the Murano glass that you see in Venice. And when I went into the store in Mdina, a lady from Michigan was running the store, and I was like, how random is this? Someone from the United States living in Malta working at the store, and I go in, and she just said, it's just what they're known for in the region is this Malta glass that is really just like the Venetian glass that I have seen. Even some of the same exact things. So I picked up a few things. I like to get something in the country where I'm going to, if I haven't already gotten something that is traditional towards that country. And I had no idea this glass was here, so I wanted to pick up that. Then I went to another store, got something else I had no intention of getting, but all of that will be coming in the haul. Hopefully, if it doesn't get seized by US Customs. I'm not taking anything back that's not allowed. It's just, ugh. I'm dreading those customs fees. I've already said that multiple times. So my next tour that I'm going to be doing is right here. Let's see if that will focus. I'm hoping that the Blue Grotto will be open. It does say that if we don't go to the Blue Grotto, something else is substituted, and it just depends on weather permitting. And it got good reviews and bad reviews. The people that were able to go said it was amazing, definitely worth it. But the people that their tour was canceled for the grotto hated it. So anyway, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'll actually get to go into one of these grottos. I'm hoping. We shall see. So I'm supposed to meet this tour at 1:15, and it's like 12:53 right now. So that's why I just came back to my room. I ate a little bit of lunch. I had a sweatshirt on that I took off. It got really warm. It stopped raining, so I was going to go ahead and put some sunscreen on my arms because I think I'm going to be outside more. And I went ahead and put sunscreen over the face today, which I've been doing every day. I've been good. So I just wanted to put some on my arms before I go and then repack my bag. I was kind of looking through some of my photos, and you know, sometimes it's like, oh, I've got 3 photos of this one thing, delete, 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 to create more room on the SD card. But anyway, I am getting ready to go out there. I want to brush my teeth after lunch and meet my other tour. But I've got to tell you, I am loving Malta so much, and I definitely recommend anybody come here. It is beautiful, very modern. Most of the signs are in English. I will tell you, everybody that is here that I met, storekeepers or people on the bus, they all spoke English very well. The only thing I will tell you that, just for me personally as someone from the United States that does not speak the local language, when I would ask them a question in English, and yes, they speak it, they didn't seem to understand. So I don't know if it's like different manners of how people say things that they're not understanding. But I've had issue with more than one place just not understanding what I was asking, because when I got dropped off back here way up, I asked, I could have walked back to the bus, or when I got off the bus, they said the cruise ship is only a 5-minute walk, and I'm like, oh, I'll just walk back. And they said something about an elevator, which I did take. And I asked the storekeeper, I said, which way do I go for the cruise ship? And they just looked at me like, you know how you know, sometimes when you'll talk to your, if you got a puppy or a dog, they will kind of turn their head like this to go, and you think they don't know what I'm saying. So even though the English is definitely very, very good, they're easy to understand, which I appreciate that. A little bit in reverse, and it, you know, that's my fault for them not understanding me. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off now, and we will pick back up on the next tour. The tour guide said there are 365 Catholic churches in Malta. So I'm assuming that's one of them. Okay, that is where we are right now, where it says on the bus stop. So I'm really not sure why we stopped here. The only reason I chose this particular excursion was because of the Blue Grotto, and they did say there was an excellent chance, or maybe they didn't use the word excellent, but there's a chance it would get canceled, that portion, and it did. So this stop was in there all along, and I'm not even sure why they do it. It's just like a little fishing village with a flea market. Not my cup of tea personally, but I like the colorful boats. I think those are pretty cool, but just not really sure why we're stopping here. And they gave us almost an hour, which is way too much time here. Definitely a waste of time. As it is right now, I would not recommend this particular tour. So remember what I showed you on that ticket.
Before we go, on that side you are seeing a number of showcases telling a lot of information about the kind of animal boats we discovered, and therefore the particular type of animals which used to live on the Maltese islands in the past. When we say in the past, we're talking of thousands and millions of years back. You have a beautiful painting of the valley as you can see it nowadays on one side. Whereas on the other side, it's, let's say it's an artistic thought of how this valley would have been at the time when all these animals we're talking about would have been living over here. Whereas nowadays the valley is void of water, in the past it would have been full. Because nowadays it does not rain much, but it did when there was an ice age going on in the world. When there were ice ages in the north of Europe and in the north all around the world, ice sheets were being created. In places like Malta, we wouldn't have had ice sheets created, but you would have had a rain age. front and on the side of this megalithic architectonic complex of temples which were constructed over here around 5,600 years back. We're talking of temples which were built by the first community inhabiting the Maltese Islands, the civilization which depended on fertility and hence we believe adored the goddess of fertility, which would have been seen as the goddess giving them soil fertility but also human fertility. Which is probably also why the statuettes we discovered inside the temple show mostly obese figures. In the past we used to think it was obese ladies, maybe the goddess herself. But now there are quite some question marks on whether it is a lady or a deity without sex or with both sexes, as they have holes in the neck where they change the heads accordingly. Maybe to change the head according to different gods they might have adored along with the goddess of fertility. Why am I seeming so not certain about what happened? Because we really are not certain about anything related to these temples. Because remember, we're talking of prehistory, which is before the invention of writing. And since these people left nothing black on white of what they did this for, what they did that for, we can really be certain of very, very little. There are a lot of theories and suppositions, some of which many archaeologists agree on, but still again, there's different theories coming from different spectrums. I will be going through the main theories, because if we tell you all the theories, we'll stay here till next year. And you don't have all the time. You're seeing the facade of the Hajar Im temples just in front of us over here, covered by this big tent, a temporary installation to preserve better these megalithic structures 5,600 years old. The tent has been financed through European Union funds for preservation of historic sites just like this. The facade is symmetrical, as you can see over there, constructed all with these large boulders of stone. How did they cut the stone? Probably creating holes in the ground in which they put wood, on which they put water, so the wood would expand and break the stone. How did they transport the stone from quarry to construction site, and whether we know where the quarries were? We have never discovered any of the quarries they used. But what we know is that the soft stone is to be found in certain parts of the island, the hard stone in others. So one of the two they had to transport from some other site. And that would have been quite tough to do, especially when there were no asphalted roads like the ones you would have nowadays. What we think they did is that they used the famous Rolling Stones. Not the band, obviously. They didn't move them with music, but these were round boulders of stone, balls of stone, which they put below the megaliths. So while they carried the megaliths, these rolled below. When they came out from the back, they were replaced on the front. Along with that, we think they used wooden trunks, which also rolled below the megaliths while being carried from the quarry towards the construction side of the temple. This is only a small part of what would have been a bigger facade. Some of the facades we know went further up beyond 10 meters in height.
Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick recap of the day while it was still fresh on my mind. I probably won't remember everything, it's just not possible. So this morning I did one of those hop on hop off things, and sort of, it wasn't exactly what you're probably picturing in your mind if you're used to that. I had an absolutely lovely time. I love seeing the old city of Mdina, and then going back to Valletta and seeing all the shops and the streets. It was just absolutely gorgeous. Love that part of it. And then the original tour that I booked was to go to the Blue Grotto and then a bunch of places I can't pronounce. And the Blue Grotto got canceled because they said it just wasn't safe to get in there, and I do appreciate the fact that they want us to be safe. I really do. But that was the entire reason I booked the trip. Just fingers crossed that we were going to be able to go to the Blue Grotto, which we didn't, but I did see it from, like, we pulled over into this off the side of the road, and then you can kind of walk down and see it. So I did get to see it and got some photos, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I got some video of it. So that was the only part of this particular tour that I enjoyed. I will tell you, I do not recommend this tour whatsoever. Whatever, I think I showed you the ticket earlier. If you ever happen to come to Malta, me personally, I would avoid this tour altogether. We went to a cave, which I think is to replace the Blue Grotto. It definitely was not equivalent at all. And they showed us some bones of some animals that were found there, and then they had skeletons of former animals that they said used to live there. But then they said, well, these particular skeletons, like the entirety of the skeleton was not found here. It was found somewhere else and they shipped it here, but they wanted it to be out there anyway. Then we walked down into the cave, which was kind of neat, but definitely not worth it to the money and the price of this tour. Then from there we went, oh, first we went to a fishing village. Oh my goodness, it was, I don't even know why, it was such a waste of time. That was our first stop. And it smelled, it just not, and there was this little flea market there that was basically, I don't think anything was made local. I'm pretty sure it was made in another country that ships a lot of product all around the world, and it's kind of cheap, if you get my drift. So just t-shirts and just junk. So I did not like that part. So that kind of started off just on a bad note, and we were there for like 45 minutes or something. It was awful. I just finally went and got back on the bus and just stayed there. So then we then fast forward from the cave, we went to the Blue Grotto, or at least to the overlook of it, and then from there we went to I want to say these ancient temples. I don't know what other than, if you want to call it pagan gods, that's what they had. And the guide said the buildings, or the ruins, were 5,600 years old, and some of the oldest standing ruins in the world. I have no idea if that's true or not. I also learned that Malta had two national languages. The Maltese language, which I believe he said it was made up of Spanish, French, Italian, I think he said English, and then Arabic. I had no idea there was such a heavily Arabic influence in this particular island, but he said that Malta had been settled from a lot of different places, and the Phoenicians, I believe he said the Phoenicians were one of the first settlers, and that's kind of where they're getting their Arabic influence. So a lot of, he said a lot of the words are Arabic words, but they're not written in Arabic. They're written with, he said, the Latin letters. So you'll be able to recognize letters, but I can't pronounce any of them. And then English is the other national language. The last country to be, I guess you could say, own Malta was England, and Malta got their independence, I think he said, in 1964. I don't know if you just heard that, but announcements are going off. They've sent this announcement out 3 or 4 times for the same person. I think when they do this, and you guys may not be able to hear what she's saying, I can barely hear it. I think when they do that, now correct me if I'm wrong if you're familiar, but when they make announcements for the people over and over again when it's getting close to time to leave, I think these people did not get back on the board ship, and they know it. They know they have an outstanding list, and they'll ask for them. And one thing I saw yesterday, a lady couldn't find her little sell and sign card, and they let her back on board without it. He just had her I think she had to show her passport or a driver's license, and then they let her on board, and she had to tell them her room number. And I'm thinking maybe like that, people don't get checked in. I don't know. Anyway, so Malta is a very beautiful island, but it's almost like a desert-like consistency in some ways. There were cactuses, cacti? There was a bunch of cactus everywhere, all over the island. And I thought, wow, you know, this is what made me think it was more desert-like. But the guide said they are not native to the island. They are from, I think he meant North America, and he just said America, then he said Mexico. So I'm pretty sure he meant North America, and then they came from the country of Mexico. I think that's what he said. There's so much he was just talking, and I couldn't hear everything. And then I definitely cannot recall everything he said either. But there's flowers everywhere, some beautiful flowers. I think I've got some beautiful pictures of different flowers. There was one that I wanted to get, but it was like in the, they have these roundabouts all over the place. And I don't know, I hate driving in a roundabout. There's like one that I've been around in Nashville, and I'm like, I hate going around that. And they're all over the city here. And because there is such a heavily British influence, they drive on the opposite side of the road that we drive in the United States, and in fact a lot of people in Europe drive in. Italy drives on the same side that the United States does. Spain did. When we were in Greece, they did. When we were in Croatia, they drove on the same side that the United States drives on. So I feel like there's very few people, unless they're really heavily influenced by Great Britain, that drive on the opposite side. Anyway, he said something about they became, I think he said got their independence in 1964. They became a republic in the 70s. Something happened in the 80s. And then they became part of the European Union. It was either in 2002, 2004. It was in the early 2000s. They became a part of the EU. So very interesting place. I do think it's very beautiful.
Good afternoon. This announcement is for the following guests: Linda June Rilio and Myra Allen. To kindly contact guest services located on lobby deck 3 forward or by dialing extension 7785.
Let's hope they hurry up and do that. I think that's the fourth or fifth time they've asked for that same two people. Let's see. Anyway, yesterday it's very different from Sicily. It's very clean. There is a lot of industry here, industrial type buildings, so it's not the most attractive everywhere you go, but it's still a very beautiful island, rich in history. I definitely recommend it. I would have loved just to have done what I did this morning, but just extend it out. And if I were to ever come back, I would want to spend at least an hour or two or longer in Mdina, and then this town of Valletta. We should be pulling away soon, and I'm hoping to get a view of the cannons. The cannons went off at noon. I was trying to get footage, and I was holding up the, I had my little tripod and camera way up trying to see, but I couldn't stand there all that time, and it was like 3 people deep or something. But I think I got some views of the cannons for you guys, but we should pass them on the way out. So that is what is going to be next. So I'm going to get some footage on the way out. Tomorrow is a sea day, and then we go to Sardinia the next day. So tomorrow's Thursday. I don't think I'm going to vlog tomorrow because it's just another sea day. So I'm just going to save footage on the SD card for Sardinia, and then after Sardinia it'll be another sea day, which was Saturday, so we'll be in Sardinia on Friday, and then back in Barcelona on Sunday, where I fly home. I will tell you guys, I am getting tired and I am actually ready to go home. This has been a really long trip. I think I said this yesterday, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go back home. I am so glad though that I got to see Malta. This has been on my list of places to come to or visit for several years now. So I'm so thrilled I got to see it and experience a little bit of the culture. I learned a lot about it, and then I promptly couldn't recall most of it, but just a very beautiful island. So I definitely recommend it. Just be careful if you do come like on a cruise ship, what type of excursion that you pick. Be very discriminating, I would say, in your excursion picking. I was not at all. Well, I sort of was, but then it didn't happen, and so then I was left with stuff that I did not want to do at all. Anyway, just my opinion. Also, again, if you have any trouble walking at all, there's a lot of climbing up and down. Some of the stuff is uneven. It's really rocky in a lot of places. Everywhere we walked, a lot of it was rocky and difficult to walk on. So just bear that in mind if you are planning on visiting. I would say almost anywhere in Europe. People walk everywhere. Of course, there's taxis and stuff, but just be prepared to do a lot of walking and try to get in good shape if you are planning on coming, and you know, and then realize you're probably going to gain a few pounds if you take a cruise. I know I have. I dread getting on the scale when I get back home. Anyway, enough rambling from me. I'm going to try to get footage as we are leaving, pulling out of port, and then taking a break tomorrow, and then I'll pick back up in Sardinia. I will say, if anything exciting happens tomorrow, I'll probably film that, but I'm not anticipating that. I'm just going to relax tomorrow is my plan. And I will tell you, this is probably going to sound really rude, but I want to try to avoid as many of these passengers as I can. I need a break. I need a break from all these people. It's weird. Regardless of how many people you meet or you encounter on a daily basis, it's probably just in the few hundreds at the most, depending on where you live. If it's even that many, it may even be less. Here, there's close to, including the crew and passengers, there's close to 5,000 people on board, and we are on a ship. Even though it's a large ship, it is still a lot of people, and I need a break from them. Yes, I do. But I am having a wonderful time. Anyway, good night. I will chat with you 2 days from now, but with you, it should hopefully, with the editing, it'll be the next day. Good night, guys. Just really quickly, as I was ending this, they were making an announcement that they are going to shoot the cannons, and it's going to be on this side of the ship, so I will be showing that in this. These are the two ladies that were just over there that I found that they've been calling for. Okay, this is probably... Well, at least they made it back aboard. I'm glad they didn't get left, even though they were 30 minutes late, and we should have already been left by now. Are they doing all of it? Yeah, they are.